Welcome to the Morningstar Manager Checkup. I'm Holly Black. With me is Jon Miller. He's Head of Manager Research at Morningstar. Hello.
Hi, Holly.
So you're going to talk to us about three funds that have had their ratings reviewed recently. Where would you like to start?
So let's start with Asia. I think this will be quite a fund that's well followed, so quite well known by our readers. The Stewart Investors Asia Pacific Leaders Fund, around 6 billion under management. The manager there is based out in Australia, someone called David Gates, has been part of the team for a long time. Also, Sasha Reddy, who runs the firm's Indian fund, is a co-manager with him. It's quite well known also because of its long history. A manager called Angus Tulloch, long-standing, retired a few years ago, and since then our conviction in the team has continued to grow. Obviously Tulloch was a loss. We've got long established managers and team around there. That fund has gone from silver to gold. We still like the approach. It's focused on balance sheet strength, franchising power, and also integrity in management. So a strong focus on governance, which can be tricky in the region, let's say.
So you don't give out gold ratings lightly. What is the difference that gets a fund over that hurdle from silver to gold?
Often it's the if there's been a change, it's if there's a few question marks, it's just seeing the managers face to face a few times over time, seeing if they're if one person leaves, a leader in this example in Angus Tulloch, it could lead to other people moving on. But here the stability has remained. We like that. The process has remained in place. So those long-standing elements we've continued to see, even though there'd been a bit of change. And here that's what reinforced our view to take it to gold.
Okay, what's fund number two?
We'll change tack with a fund that actually had a downgrade from silver to bronze, and this is Lazard Emerging Markets. The manager, James Donald, has been there for around 20 years, so well-established manager, and this fund is a bit different from peers. It's got a bit of a valuation-sensitive standpoint, so looking for above average returns on equity, but looking at attractive valuations. So at certain times that will lead him into areas like miners or oil and gas stocks, and away last year from the likes of Amazon and Alibaba and Tencent that grew really rapidly. Could say valuations are on the high part, maybe they're warranted, but that doesn't fit into his way of thinking. So although he stuck to his process, we found over the last few years stock selection has been a little bit inconsistent, and that's played a role.
So we know that value has been underperforming growth for years, and particularly this year. So is that always going to hurt that sort of strategy?
Yeah, well, it depends where the headwinds and tailwinds are in different parts of the market. So in 2016, when value was in vogue, this fund was second percentile in the category, so among the top. Last year, nearer the bottom, for the reasons I said about these kind of high growth stocks really dominating the market.
Okay, what is our final fund?
So the final one is a fund that's stayed at bronze, so we have a positive view on it, Artemis US Select, managed by Cormac Weldon. He joined from Threadneedle, so he had a track record at Threadneedle, brought his team over, and actually that team has lost quite a few members over the last few years. We still think that Weldon is a good manager, and that helps reinforce our view at the level of bronze. What I would say with this fund is that the approach and the process has generally had a leaning towards more growth parts of the market. So not all out growth. So it's not heavily ramped up in Netflix and Facebook, Amazon, these sort of things, although Amazon is the top holding. So there's been the last few years where we've just said that kind of growth has worked. He has been in a bit of the sweet spot of the market. So he's outperformed the S&P 500, so the main market in the US. When we look at growth peers, he's underperformed those peers. So we still think this is a good fund. It's not all out growth, but the manager has tended to have that as part of his thinking over time. So overall, still some positives there, and that's why we reinforce the bronze rating.
Jon, thank you so much for your time. For Morningstar, I'm Holly Black.